The world is about to be painted entirely in pitch-black darkness. Sitting on the cold stone floor, stripped of every ounce of his human strength, Subaru watches as a rising tide of shadows stretches out its countless hands toward him. Like swirling spirals, like a violent whirlpool, the dark tendrils reach out, intent on wrapping Natsuki Subaru and his very soul into their cold clutches. Wherever the shadows brush against him, his flesh feels as if it is melting, crumbling, and completely coming apart. A sickening sensation that his entire being is going completely hollow. Yet, strangely enough, he doesn't find the sensation unpleasant at all. Subaru stands at the precipice of absolute erasure. As far as his eyes can see, his physical form is turning to dust. His core essence is being entirely overridden, and his soul is being frantically churned up. While enduring what should be the greatest, most horrific blasphemy that could ever be inflicted upon a living thing, Natsuki Subaru's mind falls into a profound, uncanny silence. He is at absolute peace. The suffocating weight of his past failures still rests heavily in the deepest trenches of his heart. But the shadow doesn't care about his filth. The shadow is steadfast and true. It is the only entity in this entire, unforgiving universe that shows genuine consideration for his twisted desires, matching his desperate plea to simply vanish and disappear from existence. I want to die. I want to vanish. I want to fall apart, to be trampled over, to be reduced to nothing but ash, leaving behind zero traces. He realizes that even if his destiny forces him to revive over and over again, he wants the shadow to relentlessly hunt him down and burn his body to cinders. This black abyss is the only savior willing to grant his most desperate prayer, the dark salvation he had earnestly cried out for. And through the encroaching dark, the phantom confession echoes ad nauseum. I love you. The endless repetition is intensely irritating. Even when Subaru desperately plugs his ears and slams his mind shut, the shadow ruthlessly forces its fingers into the tiny cracks of his consciousness, sliding past his mental barriers to whisper its devotion directly into his soul. I love you. I love you. I love you. Subaru screams in the silence of his mind, telling the presence to stop because he is completely fed up with the lie. No matter how many thousands of times the words are chanted, he already knows the bitter truth. He doesn't love the shadow. He doesn't love himself. But he does understand what it truly means to be loved. He knows it all too well. He remembers his parents. Both his mother and father had loved him from the absolute bottom of their souls. He knew that fact with an unyielding certainty. It was impossible for him to forget. And that exact realization was the precise reason Subaru wanted to disappear. Despite being showered with the unconditional love of his parents, he was fundamentally incapable of loving himself, a useless, broken creature who possessed zero worth in being loved. I love you. 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 He begs the shadow to give them a break and just let him go. No matter how many times it screams its devotion, it will never find anything of value inside him. He had reached that grim conclusion a long time ago. He knew his own worthlessness, yet he had spent his entire life deliberately turning his eyes away from the mirror. He looks back at his time in this world, realizing that the companions who had desperately fought for his sake, those who threw away their lives to protect his miserable existence, could not possibly be evil people. He knew that truth too. He couldn't not know it. And because they were pure, Subaru should have been the one to die. He should have endeavored to stay hidden in the dark, ensuring his wretched presence never stained the compassionate lives of those bothered by his very existence. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Subaru fiercely commands the shadow to stop, shouting that he already hears it. He asks if enduring this psychological torture until the bitter end will finally grant his true wish. He begs the entity to swallow him whole, to break his bones, to pulverize his soul, and to erase his very name into absolute oblivion, so that he may never burden another living soul again. If the shadow can deliver that finality, he will gladly accept it. He wants to accept it. He prays that this is the absolute end of his story. If his journey can finally terminate right here, Netsuki Subaru will gladly vanish into the void. I love you. 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 But suddenly, a sharp, crystalline command pierces the heavy darkness. The endless confessions continue to whisper frantically into his ears, but the new voice rings out like a silver bell, violently cutting through the darkness that is trying to paint over his existence. The beautiful sound pierces straight through the shadow's domain, reaching down to locate Subaru in his despair. A sudden, blinding geyser of pure light gushes out into the corridor. The light slams directly into the pitch-black appendages attempting to swallow him whole. A cataclysmic shockwave detonates through the passage, cleanly snapping off and tearing away a dozen shadow arms in a single strike. It is a drop in the bucket compared to the thousands of tendrils twisting through the room. A single blow means absolutely nothing to the immense, hostile mass of the shadow entity. Yet, the person who unleashed the strike steps forward into the abyss with unyielding determination. Moving with exceptional, breathtaking agility, they duck, weave, and entirely evade the evil arms launching toward them from the dark. Until Subaru. Subaru lets out a sharp, choked gasp. The owner of that silver-belled voice reaches out, firmly grasping his feeble, limp hand. With a violent surge of strength, she abruptly yanks Subaru's body up from the floor, physically pulling him away from the encroaching maw of the shadow. Sensing its prey escaping, the dark entity unleashes its wrath. The shadow arms stretch out with terrifying speed, completely blocking off their path forward and cutting off their retreat to trap them in a corner. But despite the massive walls of darkness rising before her eyes, the girl's legs refuse to stop moving. She charges straight ahead. "Raya!" she screams. Keeping a tight, unbreakable grip on Subaru's hand, she thrusts her free palm forward, and a dazzling aura of mana is born at her fingertips. Instantly, a magnificent, towering crystal of pure ice erupts into reality, shining brilliantly in the dark. It is the exact same spell, the exact same breathtaking craft, as the ice cage that had held him prisoner. It is a valiant, sharp riposte of frost. The ice violently mows down the pitch-black tendrils blocking their path, forcibly wrenching open a gateway through the darkness. Witnessing the unstoppable shadow being violently washed away by a blast of ice, Subaru stands entirely stunned. He had truly believed that the dark entity was an absolute force destined to devour the universe. Yet the girl beside him is actively forcing it back. Deep within his chest, the heart he had thought would remain frozen and unbeating for the rest of time begins to violently tremble. As his heart stirs, his eyes unthinkingly drift to the beautiful face running right alongside him. Her long silver hair glitters like pure moonlight in the darkness as she tightly holds his hand, keeping her eyes locked straight ahead, dragging him through the ruins. He realizes she has survived the catastrophe, but the confirmation doesn't bring a wave of joy to his heart. Quite the opposite. Deep within the confines of Subaru's skull, he feels as if something is about to violently crack. He cannot allow himself to be delighted by his own survival. Every single person he had confirmed was alive, Julius, Beatrice, Echidna, had been systematically marched to their deaths. He hadn't witnessed the final moments of the lower levels with his own eyes, but he knew leaving Julius alone to face an endless horde of burning monsters and the volatile whims of Reed could only end in absolute tragedy. Beatrice had completely melted away into the light just to act as his human shield, and he had lacked the spine to even offer a merciful death to Echidna as she bled out in pure agony. Natsuki Subaru is a living pestilence. Death is intrinsic to his very being. Since reality refuses to let him perish, he is destined to continuously impose his horrific misfortune onto everyone who dares to stand by his side. He feels like a monster wrapped in a pitch-black fate. Subaru digs his heels into the stone, shouting into the chaos, "Enough already!" Amelia blinks, her voice breathless as they run. "Huh?" Subaru growls, snapping his arm back. "I said there's no use in struggling anymore." He violently forces his feet to stop moving, fighting against the momentum of Amelia pulling him along. She tries to use her superior strength to drag him forward, but Subaru digs in with a grit determination that refuses to yield. Sensing the dark, unyielding urge burning in the depths of his irises, Amelia lets out a sharp gulp and slowly releases her physical pressure, bringing them both to a complete halt. The two of them stand in the quiet corridor, locked in a tense, breathless standoff, staring directly into each other's eyes. Subaru glances warily at their surroundings, realizing that the massive tide of shadows that had been trying to consume him has completely vanished. Had they successfully shaken it off during their frantic escape? If they turned back right now, would the darkness return to claim him? He honestly hopes so. That monster felt like the cleanest way to permanently erase Natsuki Subaru from the universe. Subaru glares at her, his voice dripping with venom. "Why did you come back to save me? You must be completely out of your mind. You thought I was a dangerous fake just a few minutes ago. You should have just left me locked in that ice cage to die." The words are a cruel, calculated deception, designed to twist the truth and maliciously open fresh wounds. He is trying to push her away, desperately trying to ensure that Amelia never dares to take his hand again. But his despicable tactics are entirely useless against a girl who sees straight through to his core. Her amethyst eyes narrow in pure anger, and she raises her voice, shouting directly into his face. "I am not trying to kill you. I only wanted to hear your side of the story because I knew something was deeply hurting you. You never told us that you had lost your memories, so we—" Subaru cuts her off, screaming at the top of his lungs. "And what of it? My amnesia was just a convenient excuse for my own failures. Did you seriously believe a pathetic lie that easily? You look completely stupid. You've gone entirely crazy. You, Julius, and Beatrice." He reminds her of his desperate confession inside the stone room, arguing that anyone with a functioning brain would have recognized him as a monster. Ram and Echidna had treated him with the exact suspicion he deserved. Yet, the rest of them were completely dense. Subaru covers his face with his hands, groaning in pure agony. No, everyone is an idiot. In the end, after everything that happened, even Echidna apologized to me before she died. I don't understand it. I don't get any of it. Amelia steps closer, her face painted with deep worry as she tracks his breakdown. She breathlessly asks what happened to the others, demanding to know if Echidna and the rest are safe. But Subaru is determined to dig his nails directly into the beautiful girl's heart. He lets his emotional scars fly like shattered glass, weaponizing the tragic final expressions of their dead companions. He screams the horrific truth directly into her face. "They're dead! Echidna is dead! Both of her legs were blown off by a monster, and she bled out on the floor. She died in absolute screaming anguish. And Beatrice is gone too." Amelia flinches, her breath hitching in her throat. Subaru fiercely presses on, tears pouring down his cheeks. That little girl threw herself in front of a magical mortar attack just to protect my useless life. The beast had severed its own tail to trap us. If only I had noticed the trick a second earlier, she would still be alive. But I failed, and she vanished right in front of my eyes. Her final words were telling me that she would never forget me. He remembers the declaration vividly. Even if Subaru's mind was a blank slate, Beatrice had promised to hold his memories for him, swearing she would help him find his true self. Yet the exact second the promise left her lips, she was blown to pieces. The words were nothing but empty wind. She had kept him safe from death, and with a face full of profound, loving relief, she had completely dissolved into nothingness. Subaru clutches his hair, his voice cracking with grief. If I was the one who originally dragged her out of her library and brought her to this hellhole, I never should have done it. If I had just left her alone in the dark, she would never have met such a horrific fate. She would never have smiled like that while dying. He lets out a bitter, mocking laugh, turning his rage toward the lower floors. And that Julius guy is done for too. Right about now, he's probably a charred corpse. He's trapped at the bottom of the tower with an endless horde of fire-breathing monsters and a psychopathic swordsman who refuses to help him. And his final words to me were begging me to protect the others. What an absolute idiot. Everyone in this tower was a complete fool. What on earth were they expecting from a fraud like him? Entrusting their safety to a coward, offering their lives, apologizing for doubting his identity? What was the point of it all? Natsuki Subaru was standing right here because he had single-handedly betrayed every single expectation hung over his shoulders. He just wanted to find a quiet corner to survive in peace, and because the guilt of that cowardice was unbearable, he wanted to disappear and die. He was the most idiotic, helpless creature in existence, incapable of saving a single soul. If those fatal flaws didn't define Natsuki Subaru, then what did? Suddenly, cutting through his toxic swamp of self-blame, Amelia speaks softly, her voice carrying a deep, nostalgic warmth. Subaru and I met for the very first time at a place called the Loot House in the royal capital. Subaru's breath entirely catches in his throat. He stands frozen, unable to move his body as her words throb against his eardrums. She is speaking as if she is recalling a fond, precious treasure from her past. Subaru blinks, his mind entirely blank. Huh? Receiving a detailed trip down memory lane, completely devoid of context, leaves him utterly dumbfounded. He can only let the breath escape his lungs in a silent gasp. He isn't trying to mock her. His consciousness simply cannot process the sudden shift in reality. But Amelia completely ignores his confusion. She holds up a single finger, allowing more pieces of the past to softly resurface. Back then, a girl named Felt stole a really important insignia from me. I was in a mad rush with Puck trying to track it down, and when we finally pursued her to the slums, we ended up fighting against Maylee's older sister. We were in grave danger, but a knight named Reinhardt came to save us. And after the battle, just as I breathed a sigh of relief, the assassin made a desperate lunge straight for my life, and Subaru threw his own body in the way to save me. Subaru stands dead silent. Amelia looks into his eyes, her voice soft. That was the exact moment I first met Subaru. Don't you remember it? Subaru slowly shakes his head from side to side. Even though she is reciting the details with perfect clarity, he has absolutely zero knowledge of the events. It makes perfect sense. Those are the memories belonging to Amelia and the true Natsuki Subaru. They are pieces of a story spun by a legendary version of himself that he can no longer comprehend. Amelia continues, a gentle smile gracing her lips. Because Subaru protected me, you suffered serious, life-threatening injuries. I brought you back with me to Roswell's mansion to heal. And there, even though she complained the entire time, Beatrice treated your wounds. Ram, and surely even Rem, got on well with you. Subaru remains silent, shaking his head again. He doesn't remember. He has never set foot in a mansion. He has never done those things. And we did so many fun things together in that house. We made mayonnaise from scratch. We stayed up late drinking alcohol with everyone. Puck used his magic to make it snow indoors, and we played the King's game together. And after that, I was called away to the royal capital for the royal selection, right? Subaru stares at her. That was also the first time I ever had a massive fight with Subaru. I didn't want you to get hurt anymore, and I hated watching you constantly overdo things for my sake. I was terrified because I didn't understand why a stranger could be so incredibly kind to me. When we fought, I genuinely thought everything between us had come to an absolute end. As the story progresses, a faint emotional tremble enters Amelia's voice. Her words are a complex mixture of joy, sorrow, anxiety, and deep expectation. Hearing her heart pour out like this assails Subaru with a sensation of profound dryness in his throat. An unbearable, burning yearning begins to scorch his chest, a desperate ache born from the sheer beauty of her expression. I didn't understand what was happening to the world, and I was being completely swept away by an uneasy, terrifying situation. And right when I was at my absolute lowest, when I was completely depressed, Subaru came running back to my side. And after that, Subaru stands frozen. Amelia looks at him, her eyes wide with hope. And after that, what was it that you said to me? Do you remember it? Subaru opens his mouth, but the words hitch in his throat. I don't remember. The memories refuse to surface. They don't exist inside his head. The desperate tremble in her voice, her emotional appeal, the way she is clinging to his gaze, it all proves a devastating truth. The Subaru standing here right now is not the legendary hero she is looking for. Faced with this undeniable reality, a toxic wave of envy and jealousy towards his own past self broils in Subaru's stomach. Why is it you, Natsuki Subaru? Why are we so completely different? He knows what Amelia and the others must be thinking down deep inside. They want the real hero back. They want this pathetic counterfeit to just drop dead. They are hurting, suffering, and lamenting his presence. And yet, Amelia smiles. But I remember everything. I remember every single promise Subaru made to me. I remember every word Subaru told me. And I remember everything Subaru has ever done. I remember all of it. Her smile is filled with such pure joy and unyielding hope that it entirely banishes the surrounding sadness and anxiety. Looking at her face, Subaru's lips begin to tremble uncontrollably. Inside his body, inside his head, inside the absolute depths of his soul, there is nothing but an empty void. He has no promises, no words, no memories. And so, he completely explodes with rage. Subaru screams into the empty corridor, a violent fit of raw emotion bursting from his chest. I don't remember a single second of it. Who are you? Who are you? Who are all of you talking about? Who the hell is this guy concerning you all? Amelia widens her amethyst eyes, entirely silenced by his bellow. Subaru blinks rapidly, forcing away the hot tears welling up in his eyes. He forces his voice into a dirty, malicious tone, determined to destroy her illusions. Putting your literal life on the line for a stranger's sake? Springing into action to face monsters for someone else's sake? Running until your lungs burst just to give your all for someone else's sake? Accomplishing miracles by risking your own death? Can those things actually exist? Am I physically capable of doing such things? He screams that listening to her recollections while his mind is a blank slate is nothing but torture. He is trapped in the agony of failing Beatrice's final request. Yet here is Amelia, gently painting a picture of a legendary savior. Julius had entrusted him. Beatrice had believed in him. Echidna had forgiven him, and Amelia desired his presence. But all of those gifts were meant for the real Natsuki Subaru who was summoned to this world. Subaru points a trembling finger at his own chest. Don't joke around. A pathetic coward like me can never be Natsuki Subaru. There was no way a human being could look at him and entrust their wishes to his hands. I know the truth all too well. I know exactly how pathetic, how disgusting, how helpless, and what a rotten, useless bastard Natsuki Subaru truly is. There was no way anyone could genuinely believe in him from the bottom of their heart. Who are you actually looking at right now? What fantasy are you talking about? The hero you're looking for is nowhere to be seen. It's all a downright lie. Everything that guy showed you, everything that guy said to you, it was nothing but random crap spouted from his mouth. There is absolutely zero value in believing in it. There was no way his sins could ever be pardoned by reality. You honestly think there's any value locked inside Natsuki Subaru? He's absolute scum. He's a useless, rotten piece of garbage. And I know this better than anyone else in the entire world. Like hell anyone would ever want a monster like him by their side. Subaru falls silent, his breath ragged. There is no worth inside him. There is nothing to desire. Natsuki Subaru is a living pestilence that brings nothing but wounds, loss, and death to everyone he touches. He mutters a final, hollow sentence. It doesn't have to be me. It would be infinitely better for the universe if he wasn't Natsuki Subaru. Why did these powerful, brilliant people entrusted their lives to a man who can't do a single thing? Why did they forgive his crimes? Why did they want him around? There had to be a million better ways to manage this crisis. There had to be a stronger, smarter hero capable of saving them. Even if that hero was the Natsuki Subaru they all remembered, that man was gone. He was a pretense that this current body never possessed from the beginning, a vain, empty illusion. Subaru hangs his head, completely overwhelmed by his own sheer helplessness as his heart spirals toward total hollowness. Someone like me, just disregard me and toss me away into the dark. Someone smarter than me, someone stronger than me, will eventually turn up to save you. He wants her to understand his disqualification. He has no right to walk alongside her, no right to be desired by them. He is neither strong nor smart. They don't need a creature like him. Therefore, my name is Amelia, just Amelia. Subaru blinks, a faint sound escaping his lips. Huh? Having unloaded his entire soul, his heart firmly spinning toward a hollow abyss, her clear, bell-like voice cuts through his despair like a total surprise attack. He stands entirely frozen, completely unable to comprehend her intention. Lifting his head, Subaru looks directly at the girl standing in front of him. She has placed her hand softly over her ample chest. Within her wide, shimmering amethyst eyes, Subaru can clearly see the reflection of his own pathetic figure. The sheer clarity of her gaze takes his breath away. Amelia steps closer, her voice resolute. There are so many things I have to tell you, and so many things I need to ask you. Many, many, many things. But right now, I only need to hear one single thing from your lips. Subaru stands dead silent. Julius, Beatrice, and Echidna, they all fought for your sake. And now I have taken you by the hand, running through the darkness because I wanted to protect you at any cost. I don't want you to die. And because we all feel that way. Amelia closes her eyes for a brief moment, her chest rising and falling as a wave of intense emotion courses through her heart, including a deep anxiety for her missing companions. Her cherry-colored lips quiver, her voice dropping into a soft, piercing inquiry. You, the person who has made all of us feel this way, who are you? Subaru freezes. Please, let me hear your name. At her question, the absolute deepest trenches of his heart violently shake inside his chest. Her words aren't a rejection of the broken boy standing before her eyes. She isn't demanding that he magically manifest his old memories or return their lost hero. Her question is an absolute, unconditional affirmation of the Natsuki Subaru standing right here. If she had screamed at him, calling him a dangerous fake and demanding their real hero back, the resentment would have been infinitely easier to bear. It would have aligned perfectly with his own self-hatred. He preferred the side of those who branded him a counterfeit. The suspicion and the torture were a comfort to his guilt. But Amelia? No, not just her. Up until this exact moment, every single companion who had spoken to him had implored the exact same thing. It didn't matter if he was strong or weak, even when he exposed his most shameful cowardice, and even when he forgot every single detail of their shared past, their need for him remained entirely unchanged. Through their actions, their words, and their final breaths, they had shown their absolute need for Natsuki Subaru. Subaru's voice shakes, a faint whisper escaping his lips. Why? Amelia remains silent, watching him. Why are you here for my sake? What can a guy like me even accomplish? What could you possibly expect from him? He genuinely cannot comprehend it. Trapped in an overwhelming, apocalyptic despair, dangerously outnumbered by monsters, what difference could his presence possibly make? How could Natsuki Subaru improve this nightmare? How could a weak, dumb, miserable, spineless coward break through this dead end? Amelia casts her eyes down slightly, her long eyelashes bordering her gaze as her silver bell voice tickles his heart, acting like a literal linchpin tying Natsuki Subaru to this world. She shakes her head begrudgingly, a powerful, deep emotion connecting directly to his soul. Amelia, there are plenty of people in this world who are stronger than Subaru, and surely there are many people who are smarter than you. But I prefer to be with you, Subaru, no matter what happens. I believe that you will stand by my side, and that is my sole wish. After all, Subaru stares at her. After all, if you're going to help me anyway, having it be the person I like would make me so much happier than someone who just does it because they happen to be strong. And as she speaks the words, a brilliant, breathtaking smile spreads across her face, her cheeks subtly blushing in the dim light. Subaru takes a sharp, violent gasp of air. Hearing her confession, it feels as if the concept of time itself has completely ground to a halt inside his body. Bat up, bat up. His heart pounds furiously against his ribs. And as the intense warmth boils up from the depths of his soul, a final, fading note of self-derision flashes through his mind toward his past self. I see, Natsuki Subaru. You fell completely in love with this beautiful girl, didn't you? A girl who is entirely out of your league. An angelic woman who actually gives a fraud like you the time of day. A legendary knight, a wise entity, a protective little girl, and now the beautiful princess standing right in front of him. They weren't asking him to be a flawless, all-powerful savior. They didn't expect a god. They merely wished that if these staggering walls of reality had to be crossed, they wanted to cross them with him, simply because they cared about his existence. Amelia smiles softly, offering her identity to him once more. My name is Amelia. Just Amelia. Please, let me hear your name. Subaru hesitates for a final fraction of a second. He had denied his identity over and over again, screaming that he couldn't do it. But looking into her eyes, he realizes his self-hatred was nothing but a convenient game of words. He has been entrusted, believed in, forgiven, and deeply desired by the people of this tower. If the man who earned those gifts is defined by a single title, my name is Natsuki Subaru. Amelia catches her breath. Entrusted by Julius, believed in by Beatrice, forgiven by Echidna, and desired by Amelia, by you. If that man's name is Natsuki Subaru, then I am Natsuki Subaru. He is feeble, stripped of his strength, and his mind is racked by despair, but he states his name with absolute, terrifying clarity. For her sake, for the safety of everyone who threw their lives into the fire, he makes his choice. He strongly declares his existence. The deep-rooted distrust toward his alternate self hasn't vanished entirely. The horrific memory of Meili's murder and the mystery of his lost past still loom over his thoughts. Perhaps that dark stain will never leave his soul. But he realizes that it's okay. He isn't asking to be saved anymore. He isn't clinging to them for shelter. I want you all to survive, he thinks. I will help you all, no matter the cost. If a miracle can be achieved by Natsuki Subaru, then he will force this body to perform it. The reason he started running and the destination he wants to reach are exactly the same as his past self. As long as the road ahead is identical, he is perfectly fine sharing a boat with his own alternate personality. Even if he hates his guts, he will not complain. He will use the name Natsuki Subaru to save Amelia and the others. Thank you, Amelia. You made me believe in myself. Ripples of pure emotion rise within Amelia's amethyst eyes, her lips quivering as she prepares to respond to the boy who has finally claimed his identity. But the peaceful moment fractures in a single, terrifying millisecond. A sudden, cataclysmic shockwave detonates through the passage. The stone floorboards where they are standing are violently crushed and pulverized into dust as a massive wave of shadows erupts through the corridor. The architectural layout of the watchtower completely loses its shape, shattering and weathering away into heavy lumps of flying stone. Losing her balance as the floor collapses beneath her feet, Amelia falls into the open abyss. Subaru reacts instantly. He kicks off the remaining fragment of the floor with all his might, diving headfirst into the void after her. The distance shrinks in a flash, his fingers catching her long silver hair, before he violently closes his arms around her slender body, locking her in a tight embrace. Amelia stirs against his chest, crying out his name as they plummet through the dark. She frantically tries to twist her frame, attempting to position her own body lower to absorb the final impact for his sake. Even at the absolute end of the world, she is still trying to act as his shield. But her efforts are entirely useless in this void. With her back to the ground, she cannot see the true nature of their fall. They aren't dropping toward the hard stone floor of the watchtower, nor are they falling onto the sprawling sand dunes outside. The entire tower is being completely swallowed by the pitch-black ocean of shadows, leading to the ultimate end of everything. Embracing each other tightly, the two of them sink deep into the consuming darkness. But this isn't the final page. It is the exact opposite. This is the definitive beginning. The journey that they had started once before, he will proudly ignite once again, right here, starting anew from the ashes of the end. And for that reason, he seals his promise into the dark. He will make every single word exchanged with Amelia an undeniable reality. He was saved by her warmth, and now he will sacrifice everything to save her in return. The time for weeping, stuttering, and running away is permanently over. An infatuation that acts like a binding curse is exactly what his soul has always craved. He doesn't care if Natsuki Subaru is truly worthy of being loved. The requirement to stand by her side has already been handed to him. Even if the turning of the world forces them to forget their bond, and even if they lose the memories of the words spoken in this final room, he will never let the light fade. Even if you forget everything, I will never forget any of you. The black shadow completely closes over their heads, engulfing Amelia and Subaru in an absolute suffocating darkness. Together, they sink toward the infinite depths of the abyss. Everything is coming apart. Everything is resetting to absolute zero, and the end arrives precisely on schedule. And right there, in the dark void where everything becomes zero, the true battle to kill Natsuki Subaru and bring back the legendary hero officially commences.